In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this liquid brain simulation. Now this model and this brain, the skull and the brain here, are both ones that I've made. And to make this a little bit easier for you guys, I was originally going to sell this on my Gumroad, but then I thought I'll make it available for free. So I'm going to show you where to download it. It's one of my own sculpted models, the skull here and the brain. And I'm going to show you guys some of the tips and tricks to get this nice simulation here. And I'm going to show you how to deal with some of the issues like where we have these liquids going through objects sometimes. We're going to have a proxy domain here, which is going to kind of help keep these fluids bound in the right place. You can see here, it's a relatively nice simulation. It doesn't take too long. We're not going to be going crazy with the resolution. So if you want to learn how to make this, keep watching. This is pretty beginner friendly. Anybody could really follow this regardless of what level they're in, I think. So let's jump in, and I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I did. So first of all, you're going to want to download the free asset that I'm providing. So it's going to be this skull with a brain. You're going to look in the description below. I have a link to my Gumroad where you can see it. If you want to, you can just put in $0 and download it. If you want to make a donation and you appreciate this, feel free. Doesn't matter either way. Just get the file, and once you have that, you're going to get a zip file which you're going to extract. And I've already opened up that blend file inside of there. And this is it. As you can see here, this is how I've set it up. And there's also a stage, so you have some nice lighting, all kind of set up for you guys. So what you're going to do, you're going to download it, open it up. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make something for our brain simulation here to interact with. Now we could just grab the skull, and we are going to grab the skull. I'm going to go over first of all to our physics, and we're going to just give this a fluid. But what we're going to do under the type, we're going to make it an effector, and the effector is going to affect how the fluid behaves. So it's going to interact with it. But if we were to actually grab this brain, and let's go ahead and actually do that. Let's just grab the brain object here. We're going to press F3, and here we're going to type in quick, and you're going to type in quick, and then you're going to see some options here. And let's go with quick liquid. Okay, it's going to make this domain box, and it's going to automatically put you into wireframe. Let's just stay into wireframe, tab into edit mode quickly. Go to our vertex option. Let's just select this domain box at the bottom and bring it up to the floor. This domain is essentially where your simulation is going to happen, the domain of your simulation. So don't make it, like smaller than the brain. We want it all to happen inside of this box. You can make it bigger, wider, whatever. I'm just going to go with something smaller like this for now and tab back out. So what we're going to do is we're now going to, with this domain selected, by the way, the domain is the actual simulation. So make sure the box is selected. I'm going to go over to your physics, and you can see it's already set up for you. But if you were to now go ahead and press the spacebar, go to frame 1, hit the spacebar, you can actually see there is a liquid simulation here happening with these particles. And the thing is, it's not really interacting very well with the skull, and that's because it's just too thin. If you made it a little bit thicker, and there's also another thing you can do, you can actually take the simulation and bring the resolution up, but that will only take you so far. So there's a little way we can cheat here. So let's just for now select this domain and press H to hide it. Go back into solid, and what we're going to do is we're going to go Shift A, we're going to add in a UV sphere. And this UV sphere is going to be a proxy collision object. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into our front view, go G, Z, and move it up so you can see, if we go back into wireframe, that the sphere is halfway to the top of the head here like this. I'm going to tab into edit mode, and oops, let's select the top of the sphere and go X and delete it. So we only have this bit here. And then we're going to go S, X, and scale it along the X, just flatten it. Let's go to the top view here, and I'm going to tab out quickly, select the brain as well, and just hide it by pressing H, select that again. And what we're going to do in our solid view is we're going to enable proportional editing. We're also going to enable the X mirror here. So we can now grab these verts, and in our top orthographic, we're going to move them. So I'm going to go G, Y, and move this guy. I'm using my proportional fall off, and what we're doing now is making an approximate of the inside of the brain. So I'm going to select this here, G, Y, move it in. And let's grab this vertex here maybe, bring that in a little bit, and I'm controlling the fall off as I work. So we're just making an approximate inside of the brain, as you can see here. Now over here, we want to push it in a bit because we don't want the liquid simulation sticking out. So we're going to press A to select everything, right click, and let's just go subdivide. That gives us a little bit more to work with. And let's just select a vertex or two over here. And let's just go G, and we still have, oops, I think I hit that. So we're going to go G, And we're just gonna roll our middle mouse button to reduce the fall off. I'm just gonna drag that out a little bit. And let's grab it in here, just slowly pulling it in like that. Okay, so now we have it in inside. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna press A to select everything with our smooth tool here selected. Let's just smooth it just a little bit. Let's turn off proportional editing. And now we're gonna go to our modifiers. And let's give this a solidify modifier. And let's give it some thickness. So we're gonna, in this case, drag it into the negatives a little bit, like that. And let's just leave it at that for now. We're gonna right click also, and I suppose we don't really have to give this smooth shading. We're not gonna see this in the render anyway. In fact, let's just for now go over to our object properties with this object selected. Let's go to our visibility, and under the visibility, turn off render, because we don't wanna see this in our render. And also we can go over to our viewport display, and let's go to the display as, and let's make it wire. So now we only see the wire like this. So now we have another object to interact. So with this object selected, oops, I just brought everything back. Doesn't really matter. Let's just go into wireframe. So if you go Alt H, everything comes back. Let's just select that object. Let's go over to our physics and let's give it a fluid. Once again, we're gonna make this an effector. So now if we go over to frame 1 and we hit the space bar, we're gonna see that this interacts a lot better. It's still not perfect. It's still breaking through a little bit, but what we can do now is we can select this effector here. We can actually go over to our modifier and we can give it a little bit more thickness and then go back and then hit the space bar again. And now you can see that's a lot better. We have much less spillage. And the more we set up this resolution here anyway, so I'm gonna bring this, make it a little bit thinner, because we're gonna take this resolution now. If you select a domain, we're gonna go over to our physics, and this resolution here, if we take that and multiply it by 2, so that's gonna be 64. So we always wanna go up in multiples of 2. You're gonna see we have more resolution. If we go to frame 1 and we hit the space bar, you can see it's gonna look a lot nicer, even though we've made that a little bit thinner. So now that we have that, let's just leave it at 64 for now. Let's do a few things. If you wanna see it without this over here, you can go down all the way to where you see mesh, enable mesh, and then also go down to cache, and under the cache, just make this replay. Now if you go back to frame 1 and you hit the space bar, you're gonna see it like this. Now at the moment, you should be able to play it almost in real time because it's only a low resolution. So you can see here, as I'm talking to you guys, it's slowly going through here. But what we're gonna do actually, is we're gonna make sure to save this. And for me, I'm only gonna go with 70 frames because this is quite processor intensive, but you guys can do whatever you want. So I'm gonna go with 70 frames, and then under the cache here, I'm gonna make the end value here 70 as well. And then what we're gonna do is we've got to change this up here. We're gonna change the resolution. So I'm gonna double the resolution to 128. Now you can go even up to 200 or 300, but I'd really recommend that you watch out for that because they can really get you. Just changing this by another 50 could take it up to hours of simulation time. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna save. It's always important to save. And we're gonna go down and we're gonna change it for this to work to all. We want it to be on all instead of replay. Here you can choose the folder. By default, it's created a folder for you somewhere. So I'm just gonna leave it at that, or you can choose your own custom folder. That's just where it's gonna send all of this data. And then what you're gonna do after you saved is you're gonna go ahead and click on bake. And it's gonna slowly start baking this fluid simulation. And here you can see the caching is now done. If I drag through here, you can see this is all cached in. In fact, I'll even show you the folder on my desktop. It's automatically created this cache folder, and in here is a whole bunch of data which I really don't understand. But that's not the point. As long as it's cached out, that's what we want. So just a few things to consider now. Even though this scene of mine comes with all of these objects, like for example, if we go Z and we go rendered, we can see this is what we have. We can enable the stage. We obviously don't want the original brain to render. So let's go under the simulation objects. Let's turn off the brain, both in the viewport and the render. We don't need that. And by default, it's given our liquid here. If we go to our materials, this liquid domain material. We don't want that. We want to go down here to the drop down and give it the brain material like this. So now make sure to save, okay? So now we can actually render this. So let's just take a random shot here and just go render, a render image. And have a look at that. That's looking really nice, the simulation. You could always up the resolution and have it look even nicer if you have the time and the patience. So let's now just close that. Let's make sure to save. And now you can go over to your output. You can go over to the output folder, select somewhere on your computer, wherever you want, and then you can change your file format here. You can do sequences and then compile them together in something like Adobe, or you can just change it to FFmpeg video, especially if you have a short animation. It doesn't take too long to render, so you're not really risking it as much. Then you can go to encoding and change the container to MP4. Make sure to save, and then if you go render and render animation, it'll render this out as an animation for you to whatever file you chose. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time for another tutorial.